Thank you, Mayor. Madam Secretary, can you proceed with roll call, beginning with our esteemed mayor?
Mayor Hipkins,
Present.
President Monroe,
Present.
Vice President Francis,
Present.
Councilor Johnson,
Present.
Councilor Cave,
Hello, everybody. I'm here.
Councilor McCabe,
Present.
Councilor Jones Waters, Councilor Rocloud,
Here.
Mr. Nichols.
Present.
That concludes roll call. Solicitor Gibbs, I'm sorry.
All right.
I am here. Sorry.
Thank you. We will proceed with Citizens Forum. Are there any citizens wishing to speak?
Madam President, I have no one raising their hand in the box.
All right. I see that we have some outstanding minutes to approve. Madam Secretary, can you apprise me of which minutes they are? Hello.
Madam President, I'm sorry. There's a person named Jeffrey raising their hand. May I recognize them?
All right. Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, good evening. Could you state and spell your name for the record and give us your address? Hello? I think Jeffrey may have done it by accident. He's hung up now, ma'am.
All right. Then we will follow through with the minutes. Which minutes are they for consideration?
It's a typo, sorry about that. That shouldn't be on there. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay.
So I remember at our last meeting, there were some additional minutes that we were going to defer. Are we deferring them again?
So they were going to be deferred until the next legislative, not for the special.
Got it. Okay. So we'll move on to our solicitor's report.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
If I could just have a brief indulgence so I can pull up the actual, I have a couple of agendas here. One second. Madam President, on the agenda, what does it state that I'm supposed to do at this point? I want to make sure I'm going right away.
Consider the parking ordinance resolution.
All right. Madam President, I would ask at this time we open to a public hearing for consideration of the parking ordinance. Miranda, do you have a number that you've assigned to it?
I see it as 2020-021.
Is that correct, Miranda? All right. I would ask at this time that we open a public meeting for a hearing on that particular ordinance.
Okay.
Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment on this parking ordinance?
Are you able to give us a brief description of what?
Sure, I am.
What is in the parking
Jeffrey's raising his hand again. Do you want me to recognize him?
Thank you.
Jeffrey, you're unmuted at this time. Can you please state and spell your name and also give us your address? I think that we may have gotten Zoom bombed for the first time. And
No, that was fun.
I asked the Dominican secretary. So I started a conversation at the beginning of the year with Councilor Rocloud, and you know, it was delayed in large part because of COVID and doing some legal research. So it's my understanding that there exists in the borough of Yeadon a number of automobiles on private property that don't operate and are junked. So I spent a number of months researching municipalities all across Pennsylvania. I did a series of right to know requests to figure out what happened when someone made a citation. And I've tried to put together all of those issues and put it into one ordinance that serves the borough. I recognize that some of the ordinances that I looked at, everyone had a driveway. Some ordinances that I looked at, people were from very high-end neighborhoods, and I tried to draft an ordinance on behalf of the Borough Council that took into account that everyone doesn't have a driveway, and I wanted to make sure that we were holistic. I've also had a number of conversations with the police chief. The chief can tell you that we probably give each other headaches because, you know, the chief has an overarching desire to make sure that the borough is safe and livable. And I'm always concerned about that off-lier case of the person who's not trying to violate our ordinances, but is simply trying, you know, I've given a number of people this example. If I pass away and I leave to Chief Papero, who lives on Main Street, my 1967 Camaro, and he doesn't have a driveway, are we towing his car? It wouldn't be junk necessarily, but it may not be inspected at the time that I give it to him at my time of my death. So I think this ordinance addresses it. It establishes a number of definitions. We established what a junked motor vehicle is. It's a partially dismantled, unused, unusable, or wrecked vehicle that cannot be safely or legally operated on the streets of the borough. We talk about the parts. One of the things that people tell me is that there are parts in motor vehicles. So it's not acceptable to leave doors and transmissions in your driveway or in your yard. I define a nuisance motor vehicle. And when we get to the bottom, I'm going to talk about that. So that's the motor vehicle that the chief or the code department looks at. And no matter what we do, this vehicle is a danger because it will be an attractive nuisance to kids, or will be the next place that our raccoons are living and breeding at. I define private property. We do not have the ability to govern federal property, state, county, school district, or other political subdivisions. I define what removal is. Unsheltered storage. So if you have a driveway or if you have a fence, you can park your vehicle there and we have nothing to do with that. But if it's just sitting in a driveway and you want to put a tarp on a vehicle that is otherwise unusable, you have to get a permit from the borough. So we make in this ordinance, and you know, one of the things that the chief and I have gone back and forth about is what does this tarp necessarily look like? And I define a car cover, which is the tarp or other device which covers the vehicle. It is secured to the vehicle either through bungee cords or other devices with the license plate window. That would have to be approved by code. I agree with the chief. He thought that we should not just sell them. We should have people come in the code and verify what they plan to use. So we make it unlawful for a person to have an abandoned or junk motor vehicle that poses a hazard or threat or potential threat to health, safety, or welfare on their property after 5 days receiving notice from police or from code. It also, you can't lease your property to have those on your property. If you're given notice and you fail to move your property, move the vehicle, you can't park it on the highway and you can't have those types of vehicles on the highways. We recognize in section C, special permits. So someone can go and allow for a variance not to exceed 6 months. That person would have to come to the code department, request a special permit. It can't be transferred. It's only for one address and it's only for one vehicle. If the code department decides to grant the variance or to grant the permit, they have to make a couple findings. Number one, they have to make sure we have the appropriate cover for the vehicle, that it doesn't violate any sections of the borough code. The vehicle is titled, and they have a plan for what they're going to do with the vehicle. We're not just having people have their driveways be storage areas forever. If someone denies the permit, they can apply to council. So council would not be their approval mechanism for permits. You're the appellate mechanism. We would give someone a notice to remove a car. If they don't remove it, we can cite them. We can also inspect the premises. We can put a lien against the property. And there is also something I'm saying that nuisance vehicles are prohibited. So that's a vehicle that has broken windshields, one or more flat tires, which could permit vermin, missing doors, parts with sharp edges, missing tires, upholstery, which is torn or open, broken headlamps with sharp edges, dissembled chassis, protruding sharp objects, broken vehicle frames, so on and so forth. If we find those things, someone has to, we would give them notice to remove the vehicle. You could not necessarily get the permit for that. The permit is for that vehicle that you're working on that may not be up to snuff yet, but it's not a danger to the borough. Every day that you leave the vehicles on your property, absent a permit, after notice, you are fined $100, not less than $100, not more than $1,000, plus the cost of prosecution. We also have the ability to abate and lien the vehicle if necessary. And in the final part of the ordinance, if any part of this ordinance is deemed unconstitutional or illegal, the rest of the ordinance will stand, and anything that's inconsistent with this ordinance is repealed. I've spent a tremendous amount of time trying to put a needle through, put a thread through a needle here, and I think we've done it, but I'll take any questions, and if anybody has amendments, we can do that also.
Madam President, I have a
I thought, I gotta tell you, I thought I was muted that entire time, and no one heard me. I almost fell out my chair. Good.
Councilor Cave.
the appeal process. Do we think we would need to list a grounds for appeal? Like,
No, go ahead. I'm
No.
sorry.
because I think folks are going to appeal just because if they just disagree. But you know, I don't think we need to hear every appeal. I mean, like only if they feel as though those findings that the police found are inaccurate.
So, I mean, here's what I'll tell you about that is that the Administrative Procedures Act, Section 2 of our Pennsylvania Legislative Code states that when we have an appeal, we don't get the chance to kind of designate what is frivolous or not. What council could do if we had an appeal is appoint a hearing board. Our code committee currently serves in that capacity. And the code committee can make a recommendation to the entire council. It doesn't mean you get a hearing to the entire council, and it doesn't mean you get a verbal hearing. You could get a hearing that's just administratively on paper. There are a number of mechanisms that we can use, but if someone filed, we can't limit the reason for appeal. If there's a denial, we have to hear the appeal.
Okay.
Is there anyone else?
Yes, I have a question. This is Liana Roadcloud.
Councilor Road Cloud?
Solicitor, thank you for this. My question, I didn't see anything with respect to the number of vehicles that that a person could apply for a special permit.
Oh, it's in the ordinance, ma'am. I said, and I think I gave it in my oral report. It's one vehicle that you can apply for a permit for.
Okay, it is one. Okay.
And
Thanks.
section 285-92C, it states allowing a variance from the requirements set forth by this chapter for one junk automobile or property. Let's be clear though. That doesn't mean someone can only park one car on their property. If we deem a vehicle junk or abandoned, and abandoned is a weird word because if it's on your property, it's not abandoned, you own it.
Right.
If we deem a vehicle is there and meets those criteria, then you can apply for a permit for one. But a person may have 3 or 4 vehicles that are in pristine condition, or not in pristine condition, but meet the requirements. That we exist as a borough by permission of the county. The county exists by permission of the state. So we can't trump the state law. If the state says someone can drive their vehicle and their vehicle is operable, we have very little to do with that. But it's in the ordinance, it says one.
Thank you.
All right, is there anything else? Well, thank you for,
I actually will ask for an amendment to my own ordinance. I'd ask that section section J should be a section entitled directing the borough administration and solicitor to develop regulations in accordance with it. So we have to develop an application process and a process by which we evaluate this stuff. So I'm asking for section J to be related to regulations and application.
So move, Madam President, with the suggested amendment.
Second.
Having been moved and properly seconded,
On the amendment.
with the amendment.
I will note as the borough solicitor, this ordinance has been properly advertised, and this is not a substantial change of the ordinance. Thus, it is permissible for us to amend and adopt today. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. All right, having been moved and properly seconded, I'll proceed with a roll call vote in the order that councilors appear on my screen.
One more really quick
Okay.
question. Is there a timeline associated with the application expectation?
So, yes, sir. The ordinance becomes effective 90 days after enactment. You have the permit cannot exceed 6 months at a time.
Got it.
And also, once you're notified by the borough that we've deemed your vehicle to be a junked and or abandoned motor vehicle on private property, you have 5 days to either apply for the permit or remove the vehicle.
I think that I think my question is a little clearer. Sorry, is how long do we anticipate coming up with the actual application process?
I will have that. So the ordinance is not effective for 90 days. So it will be ready to go by then. I think we have to go through we have to do a education process first.
Okay.
So we won't give out citations initially. We'll give out warnings and tell people about our new ordinance.
Great, and thanks for doing that. I think that's good work by you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, we'll proceed with the vote. Councilor Jones Waters,
Yes.
Councilor Road Cloud,
Yes.
Councilor Cave,
Yep.
Councilor McCabe,
Yes.
Councilor Johnson,
Yes.
Councilor Francis.
Yes.
All right, that's a yes from me. The vote is unanimous. The motion carries.
Madam President, at this point, you now need to entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance.
So move,
So
Madam President.
moved.
Second.
Second.
All right. Having been moved and seconded a couple of times, I hope the secretary caught that. I will proceed with a roll call vote in the order that councilors appear on my screen if there are no additional discussion. All right, Councilor Jones Waters,
Yes.
Councilor Road Cloud,
Yes.
Councilor Cave,
Yes.
Councilor McCabe,
Yes.
Councilor Francis,
Yes.
Councilor Johnson.
Yes.
That's a yes from me. The vote is unanimous. The motion carries.
Madam President, one second. Danielle was kind enough to send me the agenda. 1 second. I don't know if that concludes my business or not. That concludes, that was ordinance number 2020 debt. Okay, so just so we're clear for the secretary, that would be ordinance number 2020-1397, not 021. It was an ordinance.
The resolution was 021 and the ordinance is
No.
1397.
All I had today was an ordinance, so it would be 1397. Can Nafis or someone verify that you all know, hear me on that?
Yeah.
Received.
Thank you.
I'm saying the parking vote was an ordinance, not a resolution.
Correct.
Okay,
I think I captured it as ordinance, yes.
okay.
Thank you, Madam President. That concludes my business for this evening.
All right, thank you.
Council should expect, I also received a request for a solicitor's opinion. I'm going to try to turn it around and get it out tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yep.
All right, we'll look for it tomorrow. We move on to our finance, the whole reason we're here this evening.
I thought we were here for parking, no?
No,
Madam President, I just want to, as mayor, thank Solicitor Charles Gibbs on his great work on that. I know that it was a long time in the offing, and he did a lot of work on that. It wasn't easy, and I think he came up with a pretty good, nuanced result here. So I just want to thank him personally.
All right. Thank you for that, Mayor. We'll move on to finance. Councilor Cave, do you want to take the lead on this?
Sure. Madam President, I would like a motion to approve the final budget for Borough of Yeadon fiscal year 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Having been moved and properly seconded on the question.
Yes, I do want to entertain some minor adjustments to it. Maybe not so minor, but so I took in a lot of thought from the feedback a couple meetings ago, and I think it was really valuable. Right, there was a lot of discussion on infrastructure, and the need to address it holistically. Right, I believe that creating room or opportunities for additional revenues is important long term, something that will likely outlive us and our tenures on council. So my subtle changes, I'd like to get your input on taking a look at the capital improvement line item in the expenditures and taking that out temporarily out of the general fund and take a look at possible capital improvement bonds and at least entertain the question on doing that. Now, I'm not a big fan of borrowing, and I know a lot of you are not, but just taking a look at our budget is relatively tight this year. It's tight for a number of reasons that Mr. Nichols kind of broke down incredibly well during that meeting. COVID has put a tightening on some of those really natural revenues that we're used to experiencing, like transfer tax, and as well as the permitting licenses and permitting. So I do want to address possibly taking that line item out, at least just temporarily, and then having a conversation with the understanding that we have a real deep conversation about how we want to address the major issues in the borough that's around infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, we have waterway issues that we seem to try to put duct tape on every single year. We have issues with the Borough Hall that it seems like everybody's getting a little frustrated with. And the reason why we keep just kind of putting Band-Aids on it is because we kind of just operate these repairs out of our general fund every single year. Now, it's not the worst way to do things because ultimately we put the Band-Aid on it, but we're not fixing in the right way, right? So just if we think about how we take care of our households, yeah, if we had to fix our entire house up just out of what we get in our paychecks every 2 weeks, that's not going to happen. That's how we're doing it. Sometimes you have to borrow. Sometimes you got to get that home equity loan. Sometimes you got to take some cash out in a major way somewhere to be able to fix it, so you're not every single year trying to fix it the same exact way with Band-Aids. So I am going to suggest taking that capital improvement line item out this year and having a conversation to where we can address it and address all of the issues that the members on this council and our professionals that we partner with suggest need to be done. And I would love to get everybody's input on that. What do we think?
Okay. So, Mr. Nichols, are you following, and do you have any feedback on how this would affect the budget that we have proposed this evening?
Well, the budget we have proposed this evening, I think, I don't, if we take or move anything out, I think we will have to, and Solicitor Gibbs can correct me, I think we would have to reset the budget a little bit, come back out and present it again. I think that's how the borough code calls. I think that's how we have to do it. I'm not sure, and I might be getting my municipalities mixed up. What I would propose, there is a $250,000 line item coming from the general fund. We don't transfer the funds at the top of the year. We transfer them when the expenditures actually happen and kind of draw down throughout the year. I would propose that the motion be carried with the contingency that council approves each capital item prior to us, getting that particular capital item. Right now, though it is a blanket $250,000, we usually bring that information to council before we just go ahead and tap into any money that's in the capital improvement budget. And Councilor Cave, again, I don't know if this makes you comfortable or not. I think the things that we foresee, we don't foresee them being done within the next 90 to 120 days that are in the capital budget unless something, an emergency happens. So I think that gives us enough time to go out and look at a potential borrowing to address the needs in the first part of the year, and that $250,000 will never have to leave the general fund and is a cushion. Does that make sense?
It does.
Councilor Cave, just so you know, section 1312 of the Borough Code states that the council may, in its reasonable discretion, in the year by motion, modify the budget after its final adoption.
Okay.
New appropriations, supplementary appropriations, and transfers from one appropriation to another may be made during the fiscal year, either before or after the expenditure is authorized or ratified after the expenditure is made. So I'm not wed to the December 31st date.
Mm-hmm.
And you shouldn't be either, sir.
So with that, I'm comfortable advancing the budget as is, but I definitely don't want to leave the topic. So let's move the motion, and then I do want to make sure that we can schedule at least another conversation around infrastructure.
I'm 110% with you.
All right, so is there any other discussion before we proceed with our vote for the final budget? Okay, I will proceed with the roll call vote in the order that councilors appear on my screen. Councilor Jones Waters.
Yes.
Councilor Road Cloud.
Yes.
Councilor Cave.
Yes.
Councilor McCabe.
No.
Councilor Francis.
Yes.
Councilor Johnson.
Yes.
So yes from me, the motion carries.
And Madam President, I am seeking a motion to consider the adoption of Resolution 2020-022, the final budget for the Borough of Yeadon fiscal year 2021.
So
And
moved.
Councilor, I'm sorry, before Councilor Cave, I do apologize. It is ordinance number 1398, not resolution.
I'm sorry. No, that's not. That's. I think that's incorrect, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm getting a lawyer and I should be a finance guy. I'll let the lawyer talk.
So it seems like it should be resolution number 2020-021, since the parking ordinance was not a resolution.
That's correct, ma'am.
So it would be for consideration of adopting resolution 2020-021, final budget for the Borough of Yeadon for fiscal year 2021.
That's correct.
Madam President, moved as no, I can't move it.
You can.
So
Sir.
as amended, and then I guess somebody can move it.
So moved. Second.
Have you been moved and seconded on the question?
Madam President, are we on letter C?
We are on letter B. Under the solicitor's report, resolution 2020-021 didn't exist. So now that it's been assigned to the final budget. So it should read letter B, resolution 2020-021.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Councilor Jones Waters,
Yes.
Councilor Road Cloud,
Yes.
Councilor Cave,
Yes.
Councilor McCabe,
Yes.
Councilor Francis,
Yes.
Councilor Johnson.
Yes.
Say yes from me. The vote is unanimous. The motion carries. And
And-
Councilor Cave, the next one will be 022.
Madam President, I am asking for a motion to adopt resolution 2020-022 for the 2021 Yeadon Borough fee schedule.
Madam President,
Sir?
I'd ask that that motion be tabled. We've adopted in our tax levy, which is the next ordinance number coming up, a trash fee and a trash fee and a sewer fee. There are some other fees that we are still in the process of trying to calculate what exactly it costs the borough to do. There's no requirement that we pass that tonight. I'd ask that that resolution be tabled until an appropriate time.
Okay, so since it hasn't yet been moved, do we need to take any action to skip over it?
No, ma'am.
All right.
Councilor Cave, did he move?
No.
No, he asked for consideration for the motion.
No, yeah, so we can skip over that.
So I do have a question though. That one doesn't have to be done by end of year?
No. So we have adopted the fees that we're required to adopt by end of year in the tax levy ordinance, which is coming up next.
Sounds good.
For example, if let's say, our contracts for certain employees expire on July 31st or July 1st or June 30th, it become effective July 1st. If our cost increase to close off a street or do any of that work, we could pass that on to the person. We can't make a profit on our fees and costs. We are though evaluating what it costs to do a zoning hearing, what it costs to do those type of different issues. My gut tells me that I'm going to recommend to this council next month that we tell someone who wants to do a zoning hearing or any type of special hearing, they have to absorb the cost of the solicitor, the engineer, and the court reporter themselves. And that should not be a cost incurred by the borough.
Sounds good.
And I think that will inoculate the borough from my fear. So when we did the McAmey Court one, they were kind enough to reimburse the borough for the cost, but that was an extensive review by the engineer and also by me as a solicitor to put on the case to the borough.
Okay, that's received.
Thank you.
And then
Go
would the
for it.
ordinance for the tax levy be 1396 or is that a different number too?
Yeah, the others are resolutions. So or has the ordinance number changed?
Yeah, because then we just do 1398.
I did 1397.
Oh.
So this ordinance would be 1396.
Oh, still okay, cool. And Madam President, I would like a motion to adopt the ordinance 2020-1396, which is the tax levy.
So moved. Second.
Having been moved and properly seconded on the question.
Madam President, if I may, because this one is a little tricky, especially as it relates to the real estate tax reassessment conducted by Delaware County that goes into effect in 2021. I do want to just note that the total borough assessment for Yeadon Borough increased by over $250 million. Because that large increase happened, we had to adjust the millage rate, which we have now a lower millage rate than we had in the past. The county and the state says that we have to make sure that the borough is net neutral, meaning the anticipated amount of tax dollars that we received in prior years that we pretty much have to receive moving forward. What that means for some residents based off of the new county assessments, there will be a group of residents who taxes are a tad bit higher the vast majority of their taxes will remain the same and some will actually be lower. But I just wanted to note that the overall borough assessment, all properties within the limits, increased by $250 million, which resulted in us reducing the millage rate. So again, I wanted to put that out there so if anyone had any questions about it, because this is new to everyone in Delaware County. And Mr. Gibbs, if I forgot anything or omitted anything, please add.
This is a budget issue, Mr. Nichols. I trust that you have it under control. I have nothing to add.
I've been talking to the county for 2 weeks. I think I'm versed. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Nichols, this is Mayor Hepkins. What is our current millage rate going to be reduced?
I apologize. The current millage rate is 9.89. The millage rate is being reduced to 5.582.
From 9.8 to 5 something?
Correct. But again, Mayor, when you increase the overall assessed value for every property in the borough by $250 million, you know, the property values increase. So that's why it decreased so much.
Yeah, that's pretty significant, which is good, isn't it? That's good.
That's a good thing. Yes, that's a good thing.
I mean, but it's still the net. I mean,
Right.
you
It's a good thing for
gain
some
it.
people. Yeah, we're not gaining anything.
Right. But I mean, to
It's a
have
good thing for homeowners because now your house will be worth more.
right. And I'm saying, yeah, I understand the calculus of the difference. Some people staying the same, some people paying a little bit more, some people less. But I mean, it's more what shall I say, attractive if your millage rate is in the 5 than it is in like the 9s. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
But I also think everybody in the county is adjusting down too, right?
Yeah, I suppose that would be the case. Yeah.
And if I may give you an example, Chester's millage rate was 29.76 and it's going down to 10.34.
Yeah, because some of the things, there are different ways to assess properties and all that. But when you see a high millage rate, it's a turnoff. So to the extent that it's lower or almost in half, that's really good.
Madam President, I think we left off some grant issues. I think YEAA. I don't know if that was the only one. Did we circle back with the information we were looking for?
I don't see it on the agenda, but we're in the middle of a motion
Oh, I thought
for the tax levy. No, we need to call the vote for the tax levy. You and the mayor are chatting. You and the mayor are chatting. Okay.
Sorry about that, Madam President.
All right. So we will move on with our roll call vote for the tax levy ordinance 2020-1396. Councilor Jones Waters.
Nafis, I need for you to give me another example.
Related to the millage rate?
Yes.
So I know in other towns, the rates, all of the rates have gone down across Delaware County, they have, but I guess to simplify it a bit, the appraised value of people's home, or assessed values, I shouldn't say appraised, assessed values of people's homes, now with the 2021 county assessment, everyone's home for the most part has had an increase to their assessed value. And because it had an increase to the assessed value, the law says, or the lawsuit that happened says that boroughs can't necessarily profit off of that. You have to make sure that it's a net neutral transaction for the town. What that means is, you know, adjust your millage rate accordingly off of the new assessed value that the county puts out there, so that it's fair, so to speak, across the board. Because what this lawsuit stated was that, you know, I guess I can use
Mr.
myself.
Mr. Nichols, if I could, because I feel like you may be overcomplicating it a bit. So, Councilor Jones Waters.
I would like for him to continue. I would like for him
Okay, he's speaking of lawsuits, and this is a simple math issue that if the millage rate times the assessed value is how they determine our taxes. If they raise the assessed value, we have to lower the millage rate so we're not inadvertently and unlawfully raising taxes for residents. So we have to lower the millage rate so it's not a tax increase.
It would have been a sky high increase if we didn't adjust the rate back down.
So the county is in control of the assessed rate. We're in control of the millage rate. When you multiply those two things together, that's where you get your basically your tax bill. And so because they increased it, we are obligated to lower our part so that the multiplication doesn't end up with a large increase for everyone else.
This is a good thing, Talia.
Thank you. Mr. Nichols, was that all you wanted to say? Were you done?
I was done, Counselor. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so Counselor Jones-Waters, I was calling for your vote.
Yes.
Counselor Roadcloud?
Yes.
Counselor Cave?
Yes.
Counselor McCabe?
Yes.
Counselor Francis?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson? Counselor Johnson?
I'm sorry. Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you. It's a yes from me. The vote is unanimous. The motion carries. Counselor Cave, you mentioned circling back about YEAA. They were supposed to submit some additional documentation with regard to how they were spending the monies and making adjustments for COVID, and what their plan was to be able to deliver services during this time. Did we receive that, Mr. Nichols?
We haven't received it yet. Again, we normally just approve it at this time for budget purposes. The grants aren't awarded until the spring, so we have time, and we will have it on the January agenda.
All right. Councilor Cave, does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so with nothing further, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved,
moved.
Madam President.
All right, thank you so much. Everyone have a happy holiday and a prosperous new year. Good night.
Good
Same to
night.
you.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
And to all, good night.